Welcome to Thez Nutz Garage, and today we're going back to Project Pro Bono, right here. What we're going to be doing in this video is installing the catalytic converter, and I may do some tune up under the hood, change the oil, air filter, clean the mass airflow sensor, little few things like that real quick in this video. But the main thing is going to be putting this catalytic converter back on the car. Like I said in the intro to this project, the original catalytic converter just kind of disappeared off the car, mysteriously like. So I've ordered one off eBay. This particular one was $122 shipped to me. I think some of the parts stores are like $400. She doesn't have that kind of money, so I believe this one will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what all the parts that were with it. I had to go to a junkyard and spend about 2 hours trying to find the brackets and the bolts, and because when whoever took it off, they just threw away the parts. So I had to go dig all those up so that way when we reinstall it, we don't have anything shaking and making a lot of rattling noises. So let's check that out. All right, so here's this catalytic converter, and this is your port for your downstream O2 sensor, and this is the upstream one. And then on the reverse side of the catalytic converter, here's a port for I actually think this is for the upstream O2 sensor, and then this other side is a port for some, I don't know what it is, but it's a hose that hooks up to it. Usually with these you have studs that are coming out. This one did not come with it, so I bought some bolts, and I hope they work, that I'm going to use to connect this exhaust flange to the exhaust manifold. So I also had to order 2 O2 sensors, because when they took this off the car, they took those too. So I ordered some offline off eBay. These are used. I found a couple of other ones too at the salvage yard, and these are supposed to work. I'm hoping that they do. This particular car does not use the same O2 sensor upstream and downstream. It uses 2 different ones, and they're pretty easy to know which one goes to which plug, because they're different colors. You got a blue and a green. The green is the one upstream, and the blue is the downstream. So we're going to put those on, put a little anti-seize on them to keep them from sticking the next time. And we also have new gaskets. This is the exhaust flange gasket that goes there like that, and then of course that one goes back here. And then here are some of the parts that I had to go dig out of the salvage yard. This is a bracket. I just got the complete thing. We're going to actually need the outside part here. The inside part's still on the car, and this is the heat shield they threw away. But that's this. So now let's we'll go around and start working on this. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I have my O2 sensors. I'm going to put a little anti-seize on just the end. It ain't got to be a lot, just enough to, as I screw these on, they kind of doesn't allow it to stick later on. I'm just going to put on just a little bit. I don't want to get it all over this sensor. Probably wouldn't hurt too much, but I just don't want to. And I'm going to put these on now because I don't have an O2 sensor socket, and I have a big crescent wrench that I'm going to use to put them on with. And like I said, the blue is the downstream, which is this port right here. I'm just going to screw it in there. It's just easier to do it this way since it's already off the vehicle. And you just think, you can tighten it up as much as you can, but you know, you ain't got to break it. So I'll do it like this so you can see. good. And you can see that you can't put this in the wrong port or the hole. That's too big. So it goes on the reverse side. Sorry for the camera angle. Now the problem that I'm probably going to have here, and that's why I'm taking this off, is that I've noticed this bolt has to go in, and like I said, I couldn't get the right studs for this, so I'm kind of having to improvise. So what I'm going to do, before I get too carried away, I'm going to go on and put a lock washer and this bolt up through here. And then I'm going to reinstall my O2 sensor. Because if I don't do that now, it's going to be, see, like that. If I don't do it now, it's just meaning I'm having to improvise here. I'll never get that bolt on there without removing this O2 sensor. And like I said, when you're under the hood and underneath the car, the one under the hood is green. And the one under the plug for under the car is blue. So if you're not for sure which one's where, just find the plugs that they go to under the car. And you'll see one's blue and one's green. Well, now that I have this bolt in, what I'm going to do is we'll go around to the underside of the car and probably put this on, get it loose. I'm not going to tighten anything up until I just get everything kind of set and get everything started. And then once I get everything started up, I'll get it all tightened up. Alrighty, so here's our exhaust manifold, and here's where we're going to be hooking up our catalytic converter from the top. Have a bolt hole back in the back, and basically here's that other pipe tubing that goes into the side of the, looks like the exhaust flange there. And then here is the green plug for your O2 sensor. So as you go under the car, sorry about the bad camera view here, you can see here's the rear exhaust, and then right up in there somewhere up in there, there's the blue. No, here it is. There's your blue O2 sensor up here by your transmission pan. And then here's the bracket that we're going to be using where the other piece was missing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the catalytic converter in this way, try to push it up this way, and once I get it up there where it needs to be, then I'm going to just start my bolts in the back. And sorry, I do have a cold. We got our, I guess this is a gasket for our flange. We got to bring it up. It's hanging on the flex pipe down there. So I had that one bolt in here, so here it is. Before I get that in there, I need to put this gasket in it. Put that in there. What I'm going to do is just start one bolt. At least I'm going to attempt to. Have the second one here. Put it on there and get this bolt started, or nut started on it. Oh, you can see it. Put it this way. I have one more back here that I'm going to wrestle in. It would be a lot easier if I had these studs that were supposed to be here. And right there, I'm going to have to kind of put a little, tighten them up just a little bit. This is kind of a cramped spot. Like I said, it'd be a lot better if I'd have had the catalytic converter that he took off. Then I could have removed the studs. I did check at my local auto parts store, they didn't have them. Alright, so we've got the bolts in here and here, and the one around back. So what we got next is we have a bracket that we need to install. We have two brackets, and to just finish tightening up the rear exhaust where it connects to the flex pipe. Now, as you can see, here's our O2 sensor, so I'm just going to go and plug that up, be done with it. Here's this bracket that I was talking about that was missing a part, and here's the full bracket. Basically, it's got two little nuts on each side that go on there. We'll tighten those up. Looks to be that the socket's not deep enough. Oh, it's done. Alright, so we got that tightened up. I'll probably hit it with a hand wrench. All right. Now we have another bracket back here that we need to install, which is right here. Let me get my parts and we'll be right back for that one. Okay, now I have this bracket here. It bolts up to the underside of the engine here. The bolts and nuts that attach the two pipes, the catalytic converter to the flex pipe, actually uses this bracket. They all three go sandwiched together. So your bracket's up here. I got two bolts that goes on there. When I got into this car, this was gone. So I didn't know how any of this worked. I've never fooled with one of these. So when I went to the salvage yard and I found the car that I could get parts off of, I really paid attention to how this was set up, and I just took all the bolts and brackets and everything with me. I got everything for like $5. So if you're not for sure how something goes together and you get into a situation like this, go to a salvage yard, a pick and pull or something, find a car, use it like a library, research it, see how everything goes together, and then when you get home, you're not sitting here fooling with this stuff in the blind. And we're going to just zip this in there. Just gonna kind of snug it up on this side a little bit. And that's all of this is all hooked up. We have our O2 sensor hooked up here. Got this bracket hooked up over here. Only thing we have left to do is to hook up the O2 sensor on the top side, and this, I guess it's some sort of tubing that connects to the catalytic converter on the exhaust flange. Alright, so going to hook up this tube here to this catalytic converter, this here, and it's not going to reach. And even if it did reach, there's something that's missing. I don't know what it is, so I'm going to have to go to the salvage yard and see what this is. I found a catalytic converter at the salvage yard, but somebody had tried to remove it and they cut it up and messed it up, at least towards the bottom of the pipe, so that's why I couldn't use that one. But I hid it in the car, so that way if I ran across something like this, I would know where it's at. So I'm going to run up here and try to see what this is, get this part fixed. Alrighty, so I'm back from the salvage yard. I went and got this part right here. Basically it's a adapter that part right there, you really can't see it because of the sun. Maybe there you can see it a little better, but this hose right here hooks into it. So if you're doing this and you're using an aftermarket exhaust, an aftermarket catalytic converter, keep your catalytic converter until you're completely done with it, because you may need small parts like this. They don't sell these at your auto parts store. So the other day when I took the heat shield off that one car, I threw the catalytic converter to the side in case there were some other parts that I needed off of it, in which I did, that part. So I'm going to go ahead and get this EGR tube hooked back up to it, and we'll be right back. So I've got this fitting EGR tube hooked back up to this adapter that goes into the exhaust flange that's connected to the catalytic converter. So I've got all that done. While I'm under the hood, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and change the oil in it. I'm going to clean out this here with a little bit of carburetor cleaner. Just kind of spray a little bit in it. I'm going to vacuum out these nuts from inside this air box. You know, that's taking these Nuts garage a little serious. And you got all the nuts in there. And then what I'm going to do is clean the get over here where you can see it. Right inside here, that little metal thing right there with a ball on it. What I'm going to do is I have some mass airflow sensor cleaner. I'm going to spray that on it, clean that up a little bit. Of course, put a new air filter on it, and try to get everything under the hood done that I need to do. I need to put the heat shield back on here, a few little minor things. And once I get all that done, I'll come back, and then this job installing the catalytic converter should be done. 99% of it's done right now. I just need to tidy up a few things. Alright, so went ahead and got my battery strapped down. Got my air filter in, cleaned the mass flow air sensor. I've also cleaned the intake, I guess the intake, whatever you want to call it, throttle body, whatever. I got the heat shield back on it. Everything's hooked up the way it's supposed to be. While that was, I was doing that, I was draining my oil, and I changed the filter and the oil. Now, you'll see I have some stuff up here on the engine. This is what I'm going to do in part, I guess it would be technically part 3, where we're going to put in a new fuel pump. And we're also going to put in this Value Craft fuel filter. That is the cheapest fuel filter I could get for this car. Like I said, this is pro bono on a very limited budget, so I get the cheaper fuel filter. But whenever you replace your fuel pump, always replace your fuel filter too. You should probably replace your fuel filter pretty regularly, because once that gets stopped up, your pump on your fuel pump works harder. This fuel filter is clogged up, so there's not as much fuel passing through it, so the pump is just constantly trying to force it through, and it's just going to wear your pump out. And then last here, see I have some Oxford white Duplicolor perfect match paint, and that's going to be for this over here. When I brought the car up here, it was sitting down on the curb in front of my neighbor's house for 1.5 years. I was washing it off, and the paint started coming off, which is kind of a common deal with these cars. This white paint, Chevrolets, Ford, they all seem to want to flake off. So it started flaking off, and what I did was I kind of sanded it down with some 400 grit wet sanding paper just to get it down to see how big it was. And what I'm going to do now is, once I'm done with the car, I'm going to go back and paint this fender, sand it down, and probably put some 2K clear coat on it. And basically what I'm trying to do is there's nowhere else on the car is it doing that, so I figured, well, I'll fix that too. And that'll be probably the third and final part of this video, is me fixing this paint, cleaning the headlights, and just kind of cleaning the car up before I return it. So I appreciate everybody watching. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you hadn't already. I'm just doing this to help a neighbor out and paying it forward. So everybody have a very blessed day, and see you in the next video.